Hi everyone, it's Angela. I hope all is well with you today. As usual, I'm in my car, just waiting. I've been wanting to share something with you that really triggered a thought with me about a week or so ago. I was waiting for my son to get out of his martial arts class. And so, I'm just in the parking lot. I was kind of fiddling around on my phone, just taking advantage of the few minutes of just not moving around, right? And so I'm in the parking lot, and then I just hear this argument ensue. And so it was a daughter yelling at her mom, and she was an adult daughter. And I just heard, "You were my mom. You were supposed to protect me." And the mom saying, "I was just 17 years old and I did what I had to do. You didn't miss no meals." And she said that particular part twice. "You didn't miss any meals." And I didn't hear all of the argument, but I heard like the daughter say, "Well, what does that have to do with me?" Right? And the mom, I heard her, they argued a little bit, and I heard her voice kind of cracked. And she was saying, "I was only 17 years old. I was just 17 years old." And I don't know what this argument was about, and I don't know, how long the argument lasted. But I want to just ask, as I was thinking about this thing, maybe two things. One, if someone is expressing to you how they feel, and it's heartfelt, and it's coming out, and it might be raggedy, it might be filled with tears, it might be yelling, it might be all these different types of emotions. Who knows how long they've been carrying that? And so if you can just sit still for a minute, get out of your own feelings, even though it's not easy to hear somebody say what you did not do, right? But listen, just listen to them, because they probably had to work up the nerve to say it, right? They're expressing that emotion, and even if they're wrong in what they're saying, it's how they feel. And so if there is a defense that needs to happen, maybe it doesn't need to happen then. Let them get it out. Just let them get it out, because they probably had to get to a place where they had to work their nerve up, work up the day, probably prayed, who knows what it was, but they were like, "Today I'm not going to carry this anymore." And if there is some correction, or if there is some things that you feel like they need to hear your point of view, give it a minute. Because at that point, you don't need to prove how right you are. You don't need to let your ego get in the way. Or, "Ain't nobody gonna talk to me like that." Look, you need to know who you're talking to. Maybe they do. And maybe you had a right. But let them get it out. And then, if it's the same day or a different day, sit with it for a minute. Before I say the then, sit with what they said for a minute. Don't even look for your place to interject. Take it in, because your actions hurt someone. Your words hurt someone. Oftentimes I talk about like with the parenting and how we're talking to our children, how we're talking to the people who live in our house, and you might feel completely justified. Maybe they didn't clean the dishes, or maybe the baseboard is dirty, or the floor is dirty, or they didn't make the bed. And this might be your 30th time telling them to get it done. And so you're up to here with it, because you've been working all day, you're tired. Get it. But even in that, there's a way to say stuff. It just is. And if you don't know what the way is, how would you want to be told? My mom would say, "Everybody doesn't think like you," right? So let them get it out. Sit with it. Process what they said, right? Even if you have to write it down, process it, because they're not 100% wrong. And the impression that they have is their impression. The feeling that they have is their feelings that they are entitled to. And then if there is a place where you feel like you need to justify or explain it, give them a minute first. Give yourself a minute first. And then, is there any validity in what they said? And sometimes you need to apologize. It might be you apologize because you were just 17 and you were in a desperate situation and you didn't know what else to do. You might need to apologize because maybe you said the right thing, but the way you said it was ratchet. Maybe you were just doing it every day. Like, there's a lady, I'm thinking to tag her. I don't know if I will, but she's in another one of my posts. She's a comedian, and she is supposed to be a mom of these 3 teenagers, and her mouth is putrid and fiery and toxic, and I don't know if someone spoke to her that way and that's the reason why she sounds like that. But if you talk to your children, your spouse, the people in your circle that way, people in your world that way, you're toxic. How can people be healthy when you're spewing poison? If that's how you love, maybe you might need to get some counseling. There's counseling out there. I'm so looking forward to this class. I start my certification this week. My classes, and it's like a 7-month certification. I'm looking forward to it because I don't have all the tools, but I'm looking forward to having more tools because a lot of our households need help. A lot of us don't have any skills. All we know is how it was done to us and we didn't like it, but we do the same thing. There's one particular lady I'm talking about. I think her name is Cousin Tiara. One of her posts had like over 16,000 likes with people saying, hey, yep, that's how I sound. You must know my mom. Yep, that sounds like me talking to my child. And you talking like that, and then the child, I mean, if you look at the news, like I say this all the time, 5 minutes, some kid has done a crime. 16, 17-year-old done a crime when they should be focusing on school, and they're what next? They're hijacking and killing and pointing a gun at somebody. We don't think it has anything to do with households? That they feel their validation outside instead of inside? When does it stop? And you are planting a seed. I'm going to say this before I go. It's a seed. Somebody planted a seed in you. Whenever a seed is planted, it doesn't germinate in its own time the way it was planted. It multiplies. And so if you're planting poison, when it blooms, it's going to bloom a double-fold, triple-fold, 30, 60, 100-fold abundance of it. If you plant love, you're going to get love. If you plant poison, that's what you're going to get in your children and your grandchildren and generations. And you look at the generations in these families, and these generations are the same thing being repeated. At some point, this generational curse has to stop. It needs to stop. It's too much at stake. It's just been heavy on my heart, y'all. And we've got to do something different. We need some more tools. We really do. Whew, so let me breathe that out. Again, this is Angela Alexander. And if you hear me, holler back. I enjoy reading the posts, but this isn't about my enjoyment. This is about people need help and people need tools. And we have to address some things. We've been sweeping too much under the carpet, and our generations under us need us. I'm Angela Alexander. Let's make it a great day.